Do you lead strategic planning with strategy or finance? This may sound like an obvious question, but it isn't. And it isn't for three strategically uncomfortable truths. First uncomfortable truth, for many companies, the most tragic part of strategic planning lies in the name of the process. Second uncomfortable truth, more often than not, strategic planning today looks much more like a financial extrapolation of the past rather than a truly insightful strategic projection into the future. And third uncomfortable truth, as a direct observation from my client advisory work, I've personally observed 75% of my client companies abdicating the strategic dimension of the process. So these are really thought-provoking statements. And if I had to express myself in boxing terms, I would even say that these uncomfortable truths may feel like uppercuts. The corporate version of the uppercut, the boardroom version of the uppercut. But if you pause a little and do some corporate introspection, you might soon realize that these uppercuts are actually uppercuts of truth. And they cut deep. But referring to my client advisory work, numbers do not lie. With a C-suite and senior executive dissatisfaction rate of 67 to 80% when it comes to strategic planning. And on top of that, numbers do tell a story. And the story they've been consistently telling me, initially as a strategic planner, and today as a strategic advisor, is a story of rigidity, complexity, time-consuming bureaucracy, and spreadsheet technocracy, where financial updates in Excel sometimes outweigh initial strategy considerations. So how do we solve the issue? From my perspective, in many companies today, strategic planning has unfortunately become a very technical exercise that really lost sight of its initial intent, initial purpose. So in this context, the best advice I could give is to go back to the origin, to go back to the fundamentals and the triple essence of strategic planning. So how does it look like? Essentially, going back to the fundamentals boils down to one core principle. Strategy leads, finance follows. In that order. Because it's the finance that supports the strategy and not the other way around. And when you think about it, the finance function is called a support function for a reason. Also, go back to the triple essence of strategic planning, i.e., planning for your strategic advantage, emboldening your firm, and guiding the implementation. And this is truly essential. Because when you plan for your strategic advantage, you're not planning for next bookkeeping entries. When you instill self-confidence in the strategic capacity of your company to achieve its strategic objectives, you don't validate Excel spreadsheet. You validate a story of strategic, operational, and financial feasibility. And finally, when you guide the implementation, You're not guiding the accounting adjustment you're going to present to the next quarterly analyst call. No. You're guiding your operations, and more importantly, you're guiding your people who will ultimately deliver the result of your strategy. So ultimately, I would also strongly encourage you to think of strategic planning as a tool of strategic alignment and as a bridge between strategic definition and implementation. And that is how I recommend you to lead strategic planning with strategy. I see you in the next episode.